Is the cash-based model actually better? Or are owners just trading one set of problems for another? Welcome to Practice Free or Practice by Design. I'm Jamey Schrier. This is the podcast for practice owners who are ready to think differently about their business, take ownership of what's holding them back, and build a business that actually sets them free. Now, today, I'm joined by someone that I've known for many, many years. She is the owner of Karen Litzy Physical Therapy, entrepreneur, podcast host, one of the OGs of that, of Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart, and a longtime voice in the physical therapy world who has helped, been a mentor to so many people and helped them think differently about private practice in the cash-based model. So I welcome Karen Litzy to the show. Hey, Karen.
Hi, it's nice to be here. I love that the tables are turned. You're one of my frequent guests on Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart. So now this is all a little disorienting.
It's like the table's like been
Yeah.
flipped around.
Yeah.
And the only big difference between the two shows is your show, I'm always welcomed by your roommate, your friend.
Right.
What's his name again?
Oliver, the big orange
Oliver.
cat.
And Oliver, big old cat that likes to come right across the stage and loves to show me his not better side every
Yes.
single time we've talked.
Every time without fail. Now he is out of the room. I needed
Thank you.
some.
I
I didn't want to.
appreciate
I
that.
didn't want to sully your podcast with that.
Oh, it's maybe that would attract visitors. Who knows?
Never know.
Let's dive in. Okay. So, look, there's a big push that I have seen, I have heard. I'm watching the stuff that's out there with this cash-based versus insurance-based. The cash-based people are like, look, cash-based businesses are better. You don't have to deal with insurance. You can charge what you want. You don't have to pay someone to collect your money. All that stuff. Of course, insurance people are like, no, it's easier to sell an insurance-based practice, scale it, yada, yada, yada. My question is, what say you?
Well, I think all of those opinions that you just stated are valid, right? Cash based can be a great model because, so for example, I see my patients for an hour. I don't have to worry about prior authorization. I can create really great relationship with patients. I'm also going to patients' homes, so that's a whole other kind of layer of intimacy that you then have with your patients, which can be exceptional. And there are definitely real advantages. Um, but I like you, I kind of cringe when I hear people say, cash based model is better because it just is. You don't have to deal with all this stuff, and it's a little too simplistic, right? So one of the things that you have to remember when you have a cash based practice is that your patient population is often better, maybe more educated. They might be insured, but very frustrated. They're financially stable, and they're living near people who have cash based practices, therapists where there's a cash based practice. So you you can't just say a cash based practice is better without thinking about the people that you're treating. So that patient population I just mentioned, it's not the whole patient universe. I mean, it's not even most of it. Maybe that's 10% is probably being generous. I don't know. But
Yeah, I don't know what the
I
numbers
don't know
are
what the
with
breakdown is.
cash-based insurance, hybrid, and all of that. I don't.
Right. So I think that's something that you have to keep in mind, that just because you open your doors and you say cash based and you say we're quote unquote better, which again is very irritating to me at least, doesn't mean the patients are going to come. And the argument is, well, insurance is broken, therefore cash is the answer. Again, really, really simplistic. Like I interviewed Simon Hargis. He's in Ohio, West Virginia, has 50 clinics, takes all insurances, and he's making it work with 300 employees. His employees are happy, they're profitable, may not be as profitable as a cash based practice. I don't know, but it can be done. And so to say that it's broken, therefore cash is the answer, I don't think is the right way to go. Um, but problems that a cash based practice quote unquote solves still exist. So you're not really solving anything, and
Well,
there's
you're just trading one set of problems for a different set of a problems.
exactly.
A mentor of mine, once told me, he goes, Jamie, that the job of an owner is to wake up every day and solve problems. So do you think it's more that, do you think it's more that it's a new shiny toy because it's different problems than what we've been dealing with for 30, 40, 50 years? And like, ooh, cash base is better. And they show all of the good stuff, like, you can spend whatever amount of time you want. There's not Big Brother looking over your shoulder and doing codes and stuff like that. You can charge whatever you want. They're showing all of those, but isn't there another side to it? Like, what is the side that people are not talking about that you experience? I mean, you're in New York. I mean,
Mhm.
you're talking about smart people. They know their stuff. They know there's 50 other people just like you. Yeah, they have money, but it's New York. There's the attitude with it. So
Right.
you can't be messing around. What were the skills that you had to develop that people aren't talking about?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Number one is understanding how to position yourself as a brand, not just a therapist.
What does that mean as a brand?
So that if you have a cash based practice, right, you're most of the time your referrals are coming from word of mouth. So developing yourself as a brand, meaning having a clear mission, having a clear vision, having values that are going to resonate with the people who are going to find you, whether that be coming to your website, your social media, or maybe it's through a referral through a friend or another patient. So understanding that your brand is more than your logo and more
Yeah,
than your
but
website.
wait a minute, Karen. Is that the same as someone that has a business that just happens to be taking insurance? Like, wouldn't you still look at that business as a brand, and wouldn't you have to do the mission and the vision and the values and all of that as well?
I think you do, but oftentimes, and this is what I've heard from, this is anecdotally from patients will say, well, I just went there because they took my insurance. So they didn't even care about anything
Okay.
else. It's like, well, they took my insurance and it's not far from my house.
So
You
you're
know,
saying that a lot of insurance-based practices might be getting a bunch of clients or patients because they're in network, they're in the panel.
yeah.
So what? And you're saying with cash base, that ain't going to happen.
Nope.
So you don't have a choice. If you don't look at your business as a brand, if you don't have a clear message, separate yourself from everybody else. And
Mhm.
what is your unique selling proposition, to use
Yeah.
a marketing term? You're not going to get just people coming to you because you're on a panel. So that's interesting. That's your experience with like a lot of people that own insurance-based
Yeah.
companies
And
are
and
saying.
it doesn't mean that, like, I don't mean to say people are just going there for insurance. Now, a lot of people will go there because they take their insurance, go to the clinic and then say, wow, I had a great experience. This was great. And they're going to go back to that insurance-based clinic again and again. I'm just saying that as someone who doesn't take insurance, you're not going to get those patients immediately who are saying, well, I went there because they took my insurance. So you have
Okay.
to your point, kind of have to differentiate yourself a little bit. And so a lot of times I will get patients who said, well, I went to this clinic. They took my insurance, but it wasn't quite the atmosphere I was looking for. It wasn't convenient, or I didn't feel like I was being seen. Or so that's why now I'm willing to pay out of pocket because I know So in my case, you're going to come to me. It's going to be more convenient. You're spending the time with me. And so that's their reasoning. So I have had a lot of patients come to me after they've gone to a clinic, an insurance-based clinic, and we're just like, it just didn't, it wasn't a fit. And maybe it was just that clinic. So again, I don't want to make it so simplistic as like, because you don't take insurance, people are going to like you better, because they may not. But if you're not taking insurance, you have to know that you're not going to grab people from a marketing standpoint by saying, I'm in network. So that's why you should come to my clinic. So I think as a cash based owner, you kind of have to work a little bit harder. You have to work maybe a
Okay.
little bit harder at making relationships within your community, with physicians, with businesses in your community. And you have to be you have to be really good at talking with people, with creating good connections within your
Let's get to the elephant in the room. I think there's two elephants.
mm-hmm,
I think one elephant is, look, we all sell. A
mm-hmm,
baby cries, a baby's selling. I want what I want. I'm hungry. And, if you look at, our profession, you look at physical therapy or any other the allied professions or any business, there's an element of selling. A plan of care is you persuading someone else to follow your prescription that is good for them. To me, that is the definition of sales. There's something that could be said, though, selling something that is out of pocket that in general is considered to be covered by insurance, unlike massage or
mm-hmm,
personal training, which is never covered by insurance.
right.
To me, talk about that because that's the elephant. That is like, I've worked with dozens and dozens of cash-based businesses. I've worked in hundreds of insurance-based businesses. The level of skill to sell is extremely high in cash base. You don't have a choice. What is your experience on that? And how did you develop that skill to do it? Because obviously you're doing a lot of things really well. You've been around a long time. You have other people working for you. New York's a tough place. Tell me about that.
Well, I think I always approached it with an attitude of like being kind and being empathetic and being a really good listener. So I think in order to be a good quote unquote seller, I think you have to be really good at listening so that when people call, let's say someone is, I don't know, cold calling me, I am going to listen to them, listen to what their needs are. I'm going to affirm what their needs are and that I can help with that. And if I can't, which happens, I say, I'll refer you to someone who can. Um, and then I will address and answer any objections. And then from there, most of the time, people don't even ask, well, how much is it? Most of the time they're like, you sound great. I think this is going to work. I think you can help me. Oh, by the way, how much is it? How much are the sessions? I tell them, they're like, great. When can I sign up? So I try and lead with listening and affirming. It's just like doing a motivational interview that you would do with a patient when they come in for their initial evaluation. And through all of that, I'm trying to get the patient or the prospective patient or person in their head to say, yes, yes, yes. Okay, she's here. She's paying attention to me. It's a yes. She's answering my questions. Yes. She's saying that she can help me. Yes. She's taken 15 to 20 minutes out of her day already. Yes. So when I say, oh, does all of this sound good to you? What do you think? They're like, yes, let's do it. And so for me, the sales is leading with kindness, empathy, and listening versus like, this is how much we charge. We see you. It's you and a PT for 1 hour. Like it's not like the flashy stuff. It's tell me your story. Let me see if this is something I can help you with. And if I can, I will say, yeah, this is definitely something we do. And if it's not, I'm happy to refer out. And by the way, when you take the time, even if you refer them to someone else, those patients refer people to you. So
Yes.
that has happened again and again. I have referred a patient out, and then, within 2 weeks, I'll get a phone call like, oh, you spoke to so and so the other day. They're a friend of mine. They said, like, you sent them somewhere else, but they said I should call you. And that's kind of how it works. Cause I've never done a Google ad. Like, I don't do Google ads or Facebook ads or anything like that. I concentrate on making great connections with patients and making great connections with people in my community, whether that's physicians, massage therapists, nurses, my hairdresser, my friends, entrepreneurs from other industries, friends, personal trainers, yoga, Pilates, all of those people. It's like it's almost like a whisper campaign, but it keeps you
Yeah.
full.
Well, I mean, if we had a couple hours, I could unpack everything you just said because to you it's like, second nature. Yeah, yeah, this is what I do. I just do this and this. I just listen, I'm just empathetic. And it's like all those are like checking the boxes of what authentic, genuine sales actually is. Because first of all, knowing you like I do, your mentality is you're playing the long game, meaning you're not going anywhere. This is what you do. You're going to continue to do it. And I'm going to treat people well. I'm going to treat people as in if I sent them my mom, to a person, look, if they couldn't help her, they're not just going to bring them in, take their money.
Right.
And you also realize that your entire marketing is relationship marketing. Because let's face it, all marketing is about building relationships. And when you're in a community, New York, 8, 9 million people, but it's still a community when you break it down to your
Mhm.
area, everybody talks.
Yep.
And yes, I understand Facebook ads and that stuff works and it has a place. But when you are a specialist like you are, and you in charge are an out of pocket, yes, you could probably do that. But what I find works, that really works well, long term, people staying in, is just building that connection with people and seeing what you can do to help them and what you can do to support them. And when you take care of someone, look, in my neighborhood, there's a thing called a listserv. I don't know if you have that where you are. Every day on that darn listserv, the same question. Does anybody know blank?
Yeah.
People ask people for specialists.
Yep.
And if you see yourself as a specialist, very rarely is someone just going to randomly saying, oh, there's a billboard or there's a Facebook ad scrolling. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but what I'm saying, people ask people for referrals. And if they say you, the chances of that person coming to you, showing up, and being a great client is extremely high. So
Mhm.
you're sowing the seeds, you're building the relationships, and that just continues to blossom. The thing about your conversation with people, first of all, it sounds like you do a free consultation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And what you're doing is when you're asking questions, which is really powerful, what you're asking about is allowing them to share their challenges, their pain, their story, whatever that is. And then you're saying you're affirming or reaffirming.
Hmm.
You're repeating back what you're hearing. You're acknowledging just by doing that. Right, Karen?
Huge.
How many people acknowledge what someone is going through? Their spouses, they don't want to hear anymore. And they're like, oh God, I mean, no matter what I say, the doctor, if they do see a doctor, may give them 2 minutes. You're acknowledging and reaffirming and valuating them like what they have is real.
Yeah.
So
And that they
so
matter,
powerful.
and they matter, and what they're
Yes.
saying matters. And I believe what they're saying. And
Oh,
that's huge, especially for people like I specialize in people with chronic pain. So diagnosis, chronic low back pain, neck pain, CRPS, osteoarthritis, where a lot of times people are kind of thrown aside. The doctor, oh well, it's chronic low back pain. Just do go see the PT.
right.
And they never really have someone sit down and believe them. Like, this is the pain I'm in, and this is why, or this is,
Right.
or this is what it means.
Giving them space,
Yeah.
giving them, acknowledgement, valuing what they're saying. So I want to change a little bit. I want you to put on just your pure business hat here. Um, you're an owner, you're a mentor, podcast host, you've spoken with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Hmm.
In your experience, what separates the winners from the losers? What separates the people that have a level of success in doing this and the people that struggle? Again, this is freedom by design. We're
Yeah.
talking about business, we're talking about business owners, we're talking about creating something. Like what's the difference if we all have access to really the same
Everything.
technology and the same
Mhm.
tools, and we all can go to Home Depot and buy all the tools, yet some people build a beautiful mansion and the other people are building some wood with some nails sticking out. Like what do you say?
So I think what separates those um, who are, I'll say, sort of successful, right? Versus those who continue to be stuck, let's say.
Yeah.
Um, I think one, and this is so simple, is admit that you're stuck. So a lot of people don't want to admit I'm stuck, or I'm bogged down, I'm mired in this business and in my life. Because if you admit it, it means that you're not perfect, you're not successful, you're not what your Instagram is showing, you're not maybe what you want to project outwardly to the public, whether it's your patients, your community, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things, is just admitting, like, I am stuck. Like, I don't know how to move forward. I don't know what to do. And if you can't admit it and you can't see it, you're always going to be stuck in it. So being able to step away from your practice and look at it objectively, which is really, really, really hard to do, because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're practice, like, it's like, this is my baby. I've nurtured this for 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Um, so I think unless you can come to the realization for yourself that maybe you're not happy where you are, or you've have doubts, you're not confident, or you're stuck, if you can't admit that, it's really hard to move forward. And
Okay.
that's where maybe a coach comes in, a confidant, an entrepreneurial group. It doesn't have to be PTs, it could be anyone, um, in order to help walk you through that a little bit. Because if you don't, and you can be stuck, you know this, you can be stuck in your first year, you can be stuck in your fifth year, you can be stuck in your 20th year, right? And so I think as you're in your business longer, it might be harder to admit and harder to see,
It's
right?
interesting that you say that. I mean, obviously, I've been an executive coach for
Yeah,
13 years.
yeah.
I've personally had a coach for not the same coach, but I've had my coach for 9 years. But I had a coach since 2006, and for the first several years as an owner, I could not admit I didn't know what I was doing because my ego was too big,
Mhm.
and that felt like failure to me. And what you're saying, which I 100% agree with, is that the people you've seen that are successful are the ones that are humble, ones that are vulnerable. And when I say vulnerable, I mean that as the most powerful thing you can be. Vulnerability, I believe, is a superpower. And when you admit that, hey, you know what? I love what I do, but I don't know what I'm doing. And that's what it was for me. I
Mhm.
had the fire, and people have heard my story. I had the fire, my place burned down, and I was like, good, because I wasn't happy. I was trapped in my business. And the reason I was trapped because I put myself there.
Yeah.
My pride, my ego, my control, my attitude, and everything else put me there. So one thing that you have said is you've seen that successful people, and I mean truly successful, much more than just money, are the ones that have said, you know what, doing this is really hard, doing this alone, and looking for a mentor, a coach, or something.
Mhm.
What's another one more thing that you've noticed over the years when you see and you interview people that you really respect and admire that would be considered very successful in what they've done?
I think that they not only look at their business in the context of their life, but that they also look at what makes them happy within the business and outside of the business. So, for example, when I did my business plan, and you kind of look at it periodically through the over the year to year, I always have in there like a little bit of happy time, right? So it's not always patient care, this. It's uh, always making sure that I see a friend once a week, the non negotiable, right? Working out, watching movies makes me happy. So I always make sure I try and get in one or two movies. So I think making sure that your business plan includes some sort of happy quotient, something that's going to fill you up outside of work. From what I've seen from a lot of very successful people, some who happen to be my patients, who are, very, very high level entrepreneurs or C suite executives, they always make time for things during the week that make them happy. And if they don't, it's this sort of like an existential crisis, right? If they're just only working all the time or only focusing on work all the time, something gives. And sometimes, and I've had patients say this, a very successful patient of mine said, I was like, well, what would you say like didn't go well? He's like, well, I'm on my second marriage. So the first one didn't go so well because all I was doing was concentrating on my business and work. And I forgot to put in all that other stuff that could make me happy.
Yeah.
So I have found that those successful folks always have an outlet for happiness outside of work. And that outlet can be listening to a podcast. That outlet could be cooking. It could, you name it, it could be anything. But that's something else that I make sure that I incorporate. Otherwise, I'm like always stressed out. I'm always second guessing things. And then I get like run down and I get overwhelmed and I feel like I'm on the verge of burnout. It's like it happens. And I've had my business now for like 20 years.
Yeah, a couple things there. One, first of all, I 100% agree. And, some people might be saying, well, Karen, that's great once you're successful and the people that you're working with.
Mhm.
And I would say, and I know you would say too, is like, no, you got to build that into your world now. You don't wait, oh, like, you know, if when I have the money and when I have the time, then I'll work out and I'll take time for myself. It's like, no. I have told so many clients, I just wrote a blog about this. I forced one of my clients who I'm working with right now, who very successful, financially doing really well, but admittedly, he's a workaholic. Like he can't have just non-busy time. And I highly recommended take off Fridays completely. And he's like, why? I go, a couple things. One, you're going to feel like a sugar craving. You're going to feel how much you miss doing that, which is not healthy. I go, two, whatever work you're going to do that you were going to do on Friday, you're going to figure out how else to put it during the week. And you're going to become more efficient. And
Yep.
as you do it, you build up that muscle, you build up that habit. Like you, I've been doing this for years. I was originally taught this by my mentor, Dan Sullivan, who talked about free days, focus days, and buffer days. Free days are days that rejuvenate and re-energize you. Buffer days are like your administrative days, and focus days are like your revenue producing. You got to be on. Like right now, this is focus time for both of us. We're on, we're doing our thing. Whereas admin time, you're doing notes, you're planning, you're doing, stuff like that. But the thing that none of us do is block out your free time first.
Yes.
When I wrote my book, one of the lines I had in my book, I took 137 days off in 1 year. How do I know? Because it's all on my calendar. And I just counted them. The days off came first, not second. I didn't say I'm going to take a vacation if there's time or if there's money. That came first. And it's so interesting that you said that with the people that you've been around, that they've said the same thing. It's pretty cool.
Because otherwise you're run down, you're burnt out, you get sick. I interviewed someone on my podcast. You know what made him change his mind? He had a cardiac event. He was in his 30s,
I believe it.
right? So it's like if you're sick, if you're run down, if your creativity is stifled as an owner, as an entrepreneur, what good are you to your patients, to your clients, to your friends, to your
Well,
family?
you become more reactive, and reactive decision
Right.
making is death. You make
Terrible.
terrible decisions when you're reactive. You say things, you get upset, you get angry, you get this. Well, that ain't going to help, especially if you have a problem with hiring or keeping or retaining your team.
Right.
This is all like, I like to say this, Karen, all of what we're doing here in our business is an inside job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an external thing because everyone can visit the Home Depots out there. Everyone has the AI. Those are just shiny toys. I'm not saying you don't need tools. You need them.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're talking about, this whole thing, this building this business, creating that freedom, having the life that we want, which you and I absolutely agree, business is the vehicle to the life we want. It's an inside job. I'm gonna let you go with this. So going back to the models, for owners listening who feel stuck between models, they're overwhelmed by decisions, unsure what direction fits them best. What's one perspective shift that you could help them um, move forward with more clarity? What's one thing that you suggest?
Yeah, and I think that we kind of touched upon this a little bit, but for me, I would suggest finding out what drives you, what makes you happy, what makes you most creative. And so, what I would suggest people to do is get out a pen and paper or type it or put it into your phone, however you work it. And this is, specifically for physical therapists, right? Write down what makes me happy as a physical therapist. What do I do as a physical therapist that makes me happiest?
And obviously, you could put whatever your profession is. Just
Yeah, insert whatever, right?
yeah.
What do I do as a insert, we'll say PT, that I absolutely dislike? I'm not going to use the word hate, but what do I do that I really, really dislike? And if you can kind of and you may have pages full of stuff, which is great because then you want to just do a brain dump, right? Come back to it to the next day, read it, dump more. And then you can kind of look and say, okay, these are definitely things. So you do a brain dump and then maybe, tighten it up a little bit on each side. And then look and say, okay, this is what makes me happy. How can I reverse engineer my career, my business to have more of that? This is what I dislike. How can I engineer my business, my life to have less of that? Not eliminate it, because there are some things that we have to do that we don't love, right? And that's part of being a business owner. It's not all like rainbows and unicorns all the time, right? So if you can figure out how to create a balance, not even a balance, create a business where you are doing things that make you happy more than you're doing things that you dislike, whether that's a cash-based model, an insurance, a hybrid. Maybe you want to do a cash-based model but take Medicare. because your area has a lot of older folks, right? So, whatever that model is, I think you have to figure out what makes you your happiest, your most creative, your most energized. Because if you are not, you're going to be miserable. You're going to resent your patients just for even calling you. Like, how dare they call me? How dare someone call me and expect me to put them on your schedule, right? If you have employees, if because they're going to sense it and be like, this is not good. This is not
Yeah.
the environment I want to be in, right? You want to be able to model great behavior. You want to model that excitement around your going to work. And if you can delegate some of the things that you really dislike, great. If you can use, there's a lot of tools at our disposal, right? Like, let's say you hate doing notes. Great. Get an EMR that has an AI scribe next to it. And guess what? You've eliminated 90% of your having to do your notes. Makes it so much life changing, right? If you hate doing patient care, hire somebody to do the patient care. And you can, slowly and continuously take a back seat to that and run the business. But if you don't know what you really want, it's going to make your professional life and I would say your personal life really, really difficult.
Yeah. Love that. Give energy, take energy. Create a list. What gives you energy? What takes energy? Focus on the take energies and see how to allow someone else to focus on those things
Yeah.
that on their calendar, it's a give energy task. Start
Right.
there, you'll start to feel better. I
Right.
love it. People need more Karen Litzy. What do they do? What do you want them to do?
Well, you can find me in a couple different places. You can go to my website. It's very easy, karenlitzy.com. I'm on Instagram at Karen Litzy, on LinkedIn, Karen Litzy DPT. And you can also check out Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart. That's the podcast. It's on all major platforms, or you can go to podcast.healthywealthysmart.com.
I love it. Thank you so much, Karen, for being here. And if something resonated with you today, don't just listen. Do something with it, especially if you're one of those cash-based people or whatever. Listen to what Karen said and do something. Because if you don't apply action, it's just more knowledge that you're going to forget anyways. And if you want more clarity on where you are in your business and what to focus on next, we have the practice growth assessment. It'll help you better understand what's actually driving your business and what may be holding you back. And if this episode helped you think differently, share it with someone else. Share it with another practice owner. Believe me, they will be grateful for it. Thank you for listening. I'm Jamey Schrier, and this is Freedom by Design.